Two River Trust and Waikato Regional Council Co-Governance Committee meeting to order. It's 12:09 on the 1st of October, 2024. Who will open us? Roger? Get the mic there.
Tēnā koe te whare. Tēnā e tātou. E hōnore he korore ki tātou he maungarongo ki te whenua e tukaro pai ki ngā tāngata. Mai e tātou he nākau hoki roto ki te. E tōngi te wairo tapu hei awhina hei tautu ia. E pai ai a mātou hui wānanga tarane. E tutuki pai ai ngā kaupapa kei mua te aroaro. Te rā kia chaki nei e koe. Mātou kui e korau o taino ki o mātou mo. Pai atu rā. Aori, waihono i te. Nā mātou inui, a koe I runga te ngā tautamihu. Mātou airiki. Amen.
Thank you for that, Roger. All right, who have we got apologies from? Sorry.
Kia. Tērā, whakahonorotia te kuini Māori, nā wai hono I te pō, tatau te whirawhiro, te tuawaru, pai maere kia rāua. Tēnā koe Roger mo tō karakia anō, tēnā koe mo tō whakatau, mō mātou whānau, te whānau o Waikato Tainui, te whānau o te kingitanga. Ahuri noa, nā pau mātua, nā rangatira e noho ana ki runga o tēnei tepu, te taho tēnei tepu. Mihi atu kia koe katoa, o tira nā kaimahi o Penuhira o kia koe te katoa, whaimara kia.
Thank you, Jaden. Okay, apologies. Got apologies from. I think we've got Donald online, don't we? Yes, we do. We've got apologies from Trustee Turner and Trustee Hinarangi.
Donald's on. Hinarangi for like.
Oh, right, sorry. And sorry, Trustee Green, right. Apologies from Trustee Green. All right, we've got, oh, sorry, gosh, I guess you'd think I hadn't done this. We've got a mover and Councillor Nickel and second in here. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, confirmation of the agenda. Have I any issues with the agenda? Nope, all good. I've got a mover and Councillor Nickel. I'll second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Disclosures of interest. Any new disclosures from committee members or disclosures in relation to any items before the committee today? Nope. Okay, health and safety. I think everyone is familiar, has been here before on the premises, so we'll take that health and safety statement as read, and we'll move on to item 6.1. This is on page 18 of your agenda packs. This is the minutes from the committee meeting held on the 4th of June. Yes? Sure.
Tēnā tātou katoa. Tēnei te mihi kia Roger, rawa ko Jaden, I whakatuwhera tō tātou hui I tēnei rā. E tautako ana hau I ngā kōrero mō tō tātou kingi, te kingi o te kotahitanga, te kingi o te aroha, te kingi ki manaaki o ngā rangatahi. Moe mai rā E taku rangatira. Tō iwi e tangi nei, tō iwi e mihi nei. E te ariki nui kuini ngā waihono i te pō, tū mai rā. E whakanui ana mātou i taku kuini. Rire, rire hau, pai mā rire. Before we get into our business today, I really just wanted to take this time to acknowledge, as Roger and Jaden have, the passing of our king and the raising up of our new queen. Now it's a time of great sadness for all of us, but also a time of great hope as we look forward to the future and a long and prosperous reign of ngā waihono i te pō. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the Regional Council on behalf of Waikato Tainui, in particular our staff, for the support that the Regional Council provided to us during the tangi. There would have been lots of things that lots of people were involved in, so not wanting to miss anyone out, but I do want to acknowledge the support that was given that I saw, which was in relation to the awa, the harbour master support, the safety support, the support in setting up the structures to help with getting on and off the vessels, our waka, and the safety boats, and also the navigation permits and everything else that would have gone on with that alongside many, many other people. Also just want to acknowledge the communication, I suppose, from you, Pamela, and from Chris, the CE, to many of the leaders of Waikato, very soon after the passing of our king. So I think it's important to acknowledge that and to just take some time to acknowledge the passing of our king.
Thank you for that, Jackie. We also, at our council meeting last Thursday, took some time to just reflect that, obviously, as an event that has significance not just to our region, but to our country. And so thank you for raising that today. And if we could have done more, we would have loved to have done more in support. It was an amazing display, really, of coming together as one people, and that was beautiful to see, and a real acknowledgement to the work of the King and the Kingitunga movement. So okay, so now we'll do the minutes. So this is item 6.1 on page 18.
Oh, just see Donald's got his hand.
Oh, Donald. Kia ora, Donald.
Ai, tēnā koutou. Noho au ki te kāinga e māwiwi ana. E tautoko ana hau I ngā karakia Roger, Jaden, and the sentiments Jackie. But also I'd like to acknowledge the forethinking of Kingi Tuheitia and bringing about ko tahitanga to work together. And we've had a good opportunity in working with the Tari o te Kingi in the time of the King, with the Regional Council, and a lot of learnings. But just really wanting to embrace that whole approach of the mahi tahi for the well-being of everyone. And mihi ana kia koutou e tautoko ana te iwi e tangi nei, pera ana te kōrero a Jackie. Me ngā kaimahi koutou katoa, koera tāku I tēnei wā. So he horse throat tāku, and ka noho au me aku taringa ke te whakarongo. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Donald. Okay. All right. Do I have a mover and seconder for receipt of the minutes? Councillor Mahuta, and second Trustee Collier. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So we'll now move to item 6.2. This is on page 25 of your agenda. This is the Sustainable Infrastructure Decision-Making Framework Implementation. And we have Director Greg Ryan take us through this item. Go ahead, Greg.
Kia ora tātou, committee members, Madam Co-Chair, thanks for the time of the committee today. So this paper is really for two purposes. One is to familiarise the committee with the sustainable infrastructure decision-making framework and indeed the strategic shift that we're taking with our infrastructure going forward, but also to involve the committee in the nomination of folk to join this particular project to really be key to its success. So the Sustainable Infrastructure Decision-Making Framework has been a long time in gestation, it's fair to say. A number of years back, Council acknowledged that we need to consider a different approach to our flood protection infrastructure. There are a number of challenges that are facing our existing schemes and really a need to sit down and involve our community in discussions around the future plans for our catchments in a much more considered and structured way. The Sustainable Infrastructure Decision-Making Framework is one that came to be. It isn't anything new, to be fair, from a decision-making point of view. It is an approach that's taken in other contexts, such as our national roads, but it is certainly a new direction for our flood protection infrastructure. The fundamentals that were reinforced by the framework were also reinforced by Council's new 50-year infrastructure strategy, which was adopted as part of the current long-term plan, which again is identifying that we need to start to make a shift in terms of how we manage our infrastructure. There is certainly a need to maintain in some areas, but in some areas there is tremendous opportunity to think differently about how we go forward in both primarily the Lower Waikato and Hauraki plains where we have our major schemes. So this paper is covering off a trial project that is occurring in the Motukaraka catchment right now. We have a number of pieces of infrastructure in this catchment which need to be reconsidered. There are a number of pressures on this particular catchment, including peat settlement, water quality challenges, and also future land use challenges. So this is a nice tidy catchment that we have selected, or the council has agreed to apply the SIDF to really trial the SIDF in the first live catchment application, see how it goes, ultimately take some learnings and look to review the SIDF and talk about the long-term rollout of this particular tool. So I'll take the paper as read in terms of the details around the project, but I guess I did want to really focus on an area that is fundamental to this project, which is the establishment of a community advisory group. And so the purpose of this group is to really be a community steer for the project and really to involve the community in some of these more in-depth conversations around what's happening in the catchment, what do we want to achieve in the long term, and ultimately what are the best options going forward for future investment. The community advisory group has membership from iwi, from Department of Conservation, and also from local landowners who have a particular interest in this project. So below the community advisory group is a number of technical advisory groups as well. And so one that we have called out in this paper is the Māori Technical Advisory Group, which we are also putting forward a recommendation to today in terms of membership, and also an acknowledgement that we'll need to look at broader membership across particular mana whenua in this area. So I'll take the paper as read. It is a recommendation of the paper that Trustee Collier join the Community Advisory Group, which is getting underway at the moment, but also that we have Jaden join our Māori Technical Advisory Group, plus other members as identified as appropriate. I'm happy to leave it there.
Councillor Smith.
Can I just ask a question, please? Greg, you've just mentioned the recommendation. I'm, whilst not a member, but an alternative, I'm happy to support 1 and 2. Just wonder whether 3 shouldn't stop at end tag, full stop. And I just ask, what's the purpose of having and that blah, blah, blah in there? Because reading through the report, I would have thought that should come forward as specific recommendations, because I'm just not sure that actually needs to be there. So could you give some explanation to that at all, please? Forgive my voice, I've just had problems with it the last 3 days.
Yeah, so I guess the purpose of the recommendation is to, so this isn't a formal committee that's been formed, it is a technical advisory group. But I guess the desire is really to have this particular committee involved in this project and to acknowledge the appointment of various members into the project. But I'm happy to take advice from the committee in terms of the recommendation.
The reality for me is, if I may, is that if they were to be appointed to the committee, does that MTAG committee able to self-select, or does it have to come back through this committee? And therefore, why wouldn't you just bring a recommendation to the committee anyway? It was just probably me being pedantic, but I just couldn't see the purpose of having this add-on.
So the intent for the MTAG is certainly for more around simply getting people around the right table with minimal process, because it is a technical advisory group, nothing more but nothing less as well.
Councillor Mahuta.
Just in terms of the cadence of the decisions and recommendations made by these groups, it would go, help me follow this, through catchment and back to council that way? Okay.
Yes, so the project itself will be taking a number of defined steps. They've been outlined. At the moment. We're looking at a monthly cadence, but we'll be looking for opportunities to run as promptly as we can, I suppose, with this issue. The project itself will be reported through the Integrated Catchment Management Committee, and I'll provide an update to this committee as well. Ultimately, it'll result in a recommendation for investment in this catchment, and that will be one that will follow council's normal procedure in terms of setting plans and budgets moving forward.
It just seems that this voice won't be represented within the, from the subcommittee, yes, but up into catchment, then who carries the iwi voice in that conversation? In the previous iteration, iwi was sitting in the Waikato catchment with us in catchment committee. I'm not looking for more committees for you, so I'm just trying to follow the decision through to.
And so there is iwi representation provided for in the Waikato Scheme Committee.
Okay.
So there's an opportunity there.
Yeah,
Does this
just
come
to round it out.
Will this come through the scheme committee before it goes to ICM, before it goes to council?
Yes, the scheme committee will be provided with updates because it is an important matter for them to be aware of. Yeah.
So just if we can remember to close that one off, so that the iwi's had as much opportunity to have their view reflected in the decision before it gets to council, that's one. And probably my last one on this one is that how does any of it, so because I keep asking how are we representing the vision and strategy in that conversation to do with infrastructure. So just want to know, that'll come through these subcommittees then.
Yes, and it'll come through the progression of this project as well, because it's obviously it's a foundation document for us, but also it'll have impacts in the regulatory environment, which is another consideration in terms of where we head with different options for this particular catchment.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for the approach. Kia ora.
Madam Chair, sorry. Councillor Mahuta's just raised an interesting issue. Is the subcommittee and council has invited Waikato Tainui to appoint 2 members, and that has been some time now, probably 12 months. I know it's a busy time, things have happened, but that subcommittee is operating fully, and we would dearly love to see the Waikato Tainui representatives. I know our next meeting is Friday, too soon, perhaps, but would ask, please, if you can get any pressure on those nominations coming through, please.
We will. We'll follow that up. Thank you, Councillor Noel. Welcome, Hinarangi.
Yes. Kia ora everyone. Apologies for being late.
No worries. No worries at all.
I've got a few questions. Kia ora, Greg. So my first question is really, how does this pilot project interact with all of the mahi that's happening around Whangamarino, Waikare, the various committees, etc., that exist around that? I'll start there.
Yeah, it's a very good question. There is a lot happening in that particular catchment. So we've already undertaken a process with this project to map out everything that we know that's happening, and that to make sure there is awareness and visibility, and also ensuring that the outcomes from those other forums and projects are taken into account as we move through this sort of process. So obviously we have a broader project kicking off for the Whangamarino catchment at the moment. We have a lot of the same people involved in both projects, and so including the project manager. So it'll be critical to maintain that connection. Yes, I think visibility is the first step. And then as these projects proceed and progress, as does this one, we'll need to make sure that I guess dependency is understood and taken into account as we move forward.
And maybe think about in the rollout of the project, how you avoid confusion, because I can just imagine
Absolutely.
that the environment will
Yes.
be rife for confusion if we're talking about very similar but different things in the same place. So I think that's something that really needs to be mapped out well. I think that the pilot project looks like a really important project, and I really support the MAHI. Just a note on the paper, if we can be referred to as Waikato or Waikato Tainui, not Tainui in the paper. And I guess in terms of appointments, in order to support the project progressing, I'm happy to be on there, provided that we have the ability to just regroup amongst ourselves, determine who the best person might be, and appoint the second member ourselves without having to come through this committee. Excuse me.
Total.
The interest of
All right.
time for progressing the project, I'd really support that, because I'm mindful the project already had a slight delay from having to come here for this, so would hate to have more of those. So. Yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendation, actually.
Sorry. Black Cap at a minute, everything over this area. Sooner or later, Karakia will ask us why they were or weren't involved. Do we have a policy position on that?
So we have alerted Hauraki Iwi to this project that is happening and committed to keeping them informed. Nothing further. We reached out probably a month ago to a number of Hauraki Iwi to alert them to the nature of the project, and again made that commitment that they remain informed about what's happening in the space.
Madam Chairs, we, Whangarana Working Group, met on 20th of September, and during that meeting, the issue that you raised, Jackie, is the where all these different groups sit. And this project, I raised it as an issue because of a discussion that took place around the scope or terms of reference. This is Whangarana catchment, and it seemed that the catchment committee would be over top of this Motu Karaka because it was part of the greater Whangarana and touched on it. So I basically tried to get some clarity around where the silos and would the Whangarana Working Group work hold up the Motu Karaka. And so we as a council need to make sure that all our ducks are lined up. So I've raised that issue within that working group because I don't want to see one trumping the other or one holding the other back. So we need to make sure that we are across it, but also going forward at the same time. So I think you raised a very valid issue. Thank you.
Councillor Clarkson.
Toto. Well, Hinerangi and Noel have just sort of prefaced the comment that I just put in the chat. I'd really like to see a wiring diagram or some visual to really explain how all of these moving parts fit together, because I'm somewhat confused as well. I understand the different layers, but I just want to see some visual or diagram which shows how it all sits together and where the flows of information occur. That would be great. Thank you.
Yes, I think that would
So
be really helpful.
yeah, so we'll take that away as an action. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that, Bruce. Okay.
I just ask, Jaden, are you comfortable with recommendation 3?
Probably take away what we did. Also, the chairs probably take away what we did from the working group. Maybe Jaden Fausta or delegate to be appointed, just so we have the best representation on those tags. So I've got time to talk back with the team. Maybe staff member, it may be a wider person who's got a good engineering background, just so you got the best representation.
We can add the same under sharp way of addressing it, or delegates.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. All right. Happy with that? Oh, I didn't even see that you moved it. Well done getting in there. We got a seconder and Councillor Mahuta. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So just on that item, do we need to record the action around seeing an updated terms of reference with a clear wiring diagram to understand where the various committees sit?
So there'll be two separate actions. So one is that wiring diagram, which will get underway. The first meeting of the community advisory group will consider the terms of reference for that group. And that will be cognizant of those other groups as well. Probably the inclusion of that wiring diagram and that terms of reference might be quite worthwhile to help members. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure how the committee will formally record the action. I've certainly recorded it myself.
All right.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're now on to item 6.3. This is on page 25 of your agenda. And I believe Peter is online. Did I see that correctly? Oh, nope, Tracy online.
Sorry, afternoon, Madam Chair. I'm coming in from the beautiful climates of Turangi and off to a meeting at Kānungarai when I finish this item. So I thought it would be useful. I'm not going to tempt the tech gods by turning on the camera. So if you can hear me, we'll go with that. Kia ora koutou. So this item follows on from the item in the discussion that was on page 22 of the previous minutes, where we had discussions and some direction was provided to staff to go away and have a look at a few things that not only Waikato Tainui but other river iwi had concerns with our freshwater management, freshwater policy review. So I just want to, want to give the committee an overview of where things are at. So some of the actions that stemmed from the earlier meeting was the separation of the Vision and Strategy project and the Freshwater Review project. So we've undertaken endeavours to separate those two projects, whilst at the same time staying pretty connected. Speaks to the conversation on the previous item. There's a lot of projects that are going on, but understand the purpose of each and not confuse the conversations. That's the message we've had clearly from each of our river settlement iwi. The instruction and conversation from the meeting at Hopuhupu was for staff to come together, so what is known as the Turopu Hotu group, which is a group that has fallen out of our joint working parties, and that's the operational group made up of Waikato Regional Council senior staff and River Settlement iwi senior staff. So we've had two meetings, an initial one coming together to a bit of whakawhanaungatanga, because there are a few new faces around the table, and then a second meeting last week we rescheduled as a result of giving people the space they needed for the tangihanga. So we met again last week. Some of the first steps, and they may seem operational, but they're really important, is the alignment of calendars. So the alignment of council calendars, the alignment of trust board calendars, the understanding of what decisions are required and what are the key actions going forward. The base of those is around draft terms of reference for consideration. So draft terms of reference for the Turopu Hotu Staff Working Group, draft terms of reference for potential co-governance committee focused on the freshwater review. So we have created drafts. They have been reviewed by iwi. Our next step with those drafts is to put them in front of our respective governors as drafts with a view to coming towards together to endorse those drafts. Now, that's a very simple sentence that takes at least 2 or 3 months to make happen. In order to further those drafts, we're awaiting some feedback, some minor feedback from iwi staff. Then we will have the document and also some feedback around timelines. We have scheduled in a couple of workshops for our councillors because we have 11 councillors who have not progressed through a plan review through the co-governance framework. So we're going to have to do a bit of upskilling, a bit of education, and River iwi staff are wanting to hear how our first workshop went, which is scheduled for, I think, the 30th of October. And then we'll look to set a timeline for that. River iwi staff are really clear what actual actions need to happen in the next 6 months and what is just for information. And that's a key learning from the Plan Change 1 process. Don't bring people together just to tell them stuff. Now we've got technology we can use. We need to be brought together to have the discussions and the decisions. We have some key actions from our last Waikato meeting, and I did ask if River iwi staff were happy with me sharing those because we had our round of co-governance committees coming up. So the key actions were to finalise those drafts terms of reference for our governor's consideration, to identify and understand in more detail project planning for the next 6 to 12 months, understand in more detail. We shared a bit of information about engagement, but River iwi would like to be in control a bit more around identifying the different forums within their rohi and how they would like to best engage within their rohi. Some discussions around the scope of the review and also just that feedback from council workshops. The conversations were really mindful of the ongoing review that central government will be doing to its policies, and if people are interested, we've got a paper going up to our Strategy and Policy Committee tomorrow, which highlights everything there. We can give that to Dave and Dave's able to circulate it, but also noting that there will be changes to the RMA over the next 12 months. Of our 14 national policy directions, each one of them will be amended and there will be 7 new ones. That being said, we also have the vision and strategy, which sets the bar, sets the objectives for the Waikato Raupatu state catchment, and we know that's undergoing review. Lastly, Plan Change 1, that's still progressing through the Environment Court. There'll be a judicial conference on the 17th of October, so hopefully we'll have a clearer indication of the timing of the release of that decision, but the judge had always intimated around the end of the year. Thank you, Madam Co-Chairs.
Any questions? Any points of clarification? Becky? Oh, Pippa.
Just a question around when we can expect to receive the draft terms of reference, the draft terms of reference.
Yeah, kia ora, Jackie, Madam Co-Chair. We are aiming for a November, early December date at this stage, but we'll be able to better update you once we've checked back in with River iwi staff. Our next check-in's 4th of November, so we can send some communications out then.
Thanks, Tracy. And just a question on PC1.
Yes.
Once the judicial review is complete, what happens then?
So the judicial conference is just a couple of outstanding matters that the judge has asked for clarification on. We are hoping, so he provided some direction to staff in August. We've worked and got a response back to that. We are hoping that that has addressed all matters that the judge has identified. So we would be looking for a decision. Hopefully it's not an interim decision, but it's a final decision from the court by December. What we can do, and we know that River Iwi Legal Counsel is part of that judicial conference, but we can make sure we update you post the conference.
So once the, sorry, bear with me, the final decision is made, is it like it's in, or does council have to go through a process, or what?
I'd like to say yep, and it'll all be done by Tuesday, Madam Co-Chair, but no, once we have the decision, it is still appealable to the higher court, but only on matters of law. So there will be a certain period of time where those appeals will need to be lodged. If none are lodged, then it starts to be implemented, and we'll be working very closely with our primary industry engagement team through our RUD Directorate to get some of that information out there to everybody. If it is appealed, then we'll go to the High Court.
So has the council got like a clear implementation plan and all of the work that's needed to support implementation, like all there ready to roll?
That's a really great question, Madam Co-Chair. We have many iterations of that plan. I guess what is stymieing it is, without seeing the actual detail from the court, it's very difficult to understand what it looks like. However, Brent's team has been working very closely with our team so that we have mapped out as much as we can, but without seeing the actual detail, we will just need to await that.
If I just carry on the same vein, Tracy, given that PC1, you know, it's about the same age as my granddaughter. She's 13. Is that so? Not only council, but a number of iwi governors would probably benefit from some kind of being brought up to speed as well,
Yes,
rather than leave that for each JMA. I'm just thinking out loud. Say there'll be an abundance of our technical people in the room, but trying to bring people, because it's been a few seasons.
It has.
Back around the table with all this freshwater stuff. And then if you're like me, we've done PC1, then we had a partnership agreement about water care, and then we've had all this other work going on. So I'm just wondering, how do we bring, I understand you'll bring my colleagues up to date at council, but how do we support, I guess, bringing the iwi collective governors a whole picture on freshwater, rather than all these, expect them to chase us around for all the constituent parts, because it is a lot. So that's one. And I think if we proposed it for next year, first quarter, some kind of, people could efficiently get there to a mini conference on freshwater rather than 20 themes on freshwater power. I'm just asking iwi if that would be useful, because we've got all the experts. You've got, or I'm not just saying only iwi need to be brought up to speed too. There's a lot of people that want to know once PC1 lands. So we did all that great work coming together for PC1. How do we see it through together at the other end? Whatever comes from the courts, will it be council only? Do we expect that we'll report it back to those river partners that came with us for the last, again, 12 years or whatever it was? I'm assuming that there's some kind of partnership closeout to that piece of work, but because we've never got there, we've never talked into it. So thank you to Jax for asking the question, because I'd like to assume it will happen in this lifetime, if not in this triennium of council. And then how do we act as good partners at the other end? Just if no one's thought about it, giving our technical team heaps of space to think about it. Kilda.
Through you, Madam Chair, just a quick response. I think that's kia ora Tipa, I think that's an excellent idea. One, because there are key messages that are delivered once and consistently, And I think once Plan Change 1 does come out, it will look different to what we provided letters of support for notification to. And what we had always anticipated was an earlier notification date. And we wanted to know, has it made a bit of difference? You know, it has been a decade. What have we done in the interim whilst we've waited for what's happened before the court? So I think there is that doubling back, that monitoring, that review. We've put in new monitoring networks. What are they telling us? As well as, okay, so now Plan Change 1 is in. Is it going to achieve the vision and strategy like we had hoped it would? Or that step, that first step. So I think that's an action we can definitely take and make happen early next year, whilst also acknowledging what you said, Plan Change 1 is only one part of our wider water jigsaw, perhaps painting an overall picture for everyone. Madam Co-Chairs, if you leave that as an action for myself, I'll make something happen early next year.
I think that's a great idea. Thanks for raising that suggestion, Councillor Mahuta. And I think that alongside our iwi partners, there are a number of other people in our community that were involved in the early days of Plan Change 1, and they too have been going, what's going on? Where's this going to land? What does it mean? And so that idea of a mini freshwater conference, that starts to sound really helpful from a number of contexts. But obviously there's specific context to the river iwi as well. All right, so we'll take note of that action. Any other comments on this item? If not, we'll move to receive. We've got a mover in Councillor Nicol, second and Trustee Collier. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we are on item 6.4. This is on page 70 of your agenda. Max. Oh, wait a minute. What am I on? Oh, we need to do the summary of the. Okay. Right. Okay. All right, so item 6.4, page 50 of your agenda. This is the Waikato Biodiversity Accord update. And who do we have presenting this item? I have Judy on my run sheet. Is Judy online or? Okay, Dave, can I get you to message Judy and just let her know that item is up, but we'll move forward to item 6.5 and then come back to 6.4. So we'll move to 6.5. This is page 70. This is the summary of WRC Integrated Catchment Management Activities 2023 to 24. And welcome.
Kia ora koutou, ko Paula Reeves toko ingoa. I'm the Central Waikato Zone Manager, and I also cover the catchment program for the Lower Waikato Zone as well. I have a presentation, so just to add a little bit more information to the item that's in front of you. Hopefully Dave's going to get that up. And with me as well is Darian Embling, who's going to cover off any questions anyone might have on the biosecurity aspects of the item. Darian.
Your name is one of those names that you see written everywhere. Yes, you've never seen the person, so it's great to see you in person.
Thanks. Actually, likewise, Jackie. Okay, next slide. So I'm just going to give, just a summary of the catchment management activities and the biosecurity and biodiversity outputs for the year. So I just thought it might be quite useful just to give you a little bit of background on the catchment management work that we do. So for catchment work, the staff are out there mostly doing these 4 kind of key activities. So in our hill country program, we do a lot of hill country retirement. So we're working with the landowners to retire some of our really steep LUC class 6 land and above, stuff that's not really suitable for farming. Where there's active land slips, we'll be doing pole planting, using poplars and willow cultivars. And often in those retired areas, we'll do a lot of afforestation. So usually using mostly native species, but sometimes still we do a little bit of exotic pine as well. We still do quite a bit of riparian setbacks, but they need to be quite large. We're always going above and beyond the regulatory requirements for that type of work. Next slide. We also do a lot of river management work that's part of the catchment management program. And this is really, of course, based around the streams and really targeted at fixing erosion and doing vegetation management that's causing erosion. Some of the erosion's very straightforward. We're sort of trying to stabilise the toes of the banks where erosion's occurring. But we'll also try always to address what's causing the erosion in the first place. That might not be, so often it's with streams cutting down, so we'll be putting in things like gradient control structures to try to get back that, just to stop the cutting through of the stream bed. Next slide. I thought it might be useful also to understand how we prioritise our work. So through the area of interest for this committee, the absolutely guiding documents for it are our zone plans and also the Waikato and Waipa River Restoration Strategy. Especially of the second one of those, of course, has had extensive consultation with iwi hapa marae 2018, and so it's really, even since then, it's still been our guiding document for our work. Next slide. So in the river restoration strategy, it identifies all the catchments where we know are going to be most effective to address catchments with high sediment loads and streams that are eroding and contributing the most sediment to the awa. So that's just a map there that shows the key catchments that we work in. So the yellow ones are where we'll be doing a lot of that hill country retirement work, and the pink stream catchments are where we're doing more the riparian planting, trying to stop erosion. Often a lot of our river management work will be in there, and you can kind of see how it's really up in those highlands, both on the western and eastern sides. Where we can, we try to get external funding to enable us to provide a greater financial incentive for landowners to do the work. And a lot of that funding comes from the Waikato River Authority. Ministry for Primary Industries has a hill country erosion fund, so we've got a big program with them. And then more recently, we've had the Crown Infrastructure Partners, which will become the National Infrastructure Agency on the 1st of December. And they are 100% funding a lot of our rivers work, which is great because there are a lot of landowners out there, a lot of multi-landowner blocks where we haven't had the ability to do the level of work that we really needed to do. So this is really a really great opportunity to be able to get into some of those bigger projects that we haven't been able to get the additional funding for. Thought someone might ask that. They're the nutrient management catchments. So we don't tend to focus as much on those ones. So they tend to be the dairy, lower kind of land.
So that's the blue areas you're
That's
talking
the
about.
blue
just
areas.
noting that
Yeah.
We didn't have for those online, we didn't have a mic on.
Yeah, I didn't have a map that left them off. Next slide. So that's the same table that you see in the report. So that's the outputs that we achieved in this in the previous financial year. So some quite substantial numbers there, particularly around plants going into the ground, a lot of stream bank protected, and some quite large areas being retired. Just a note that the Waipa zone there, that's the whole of the Waipa zone. So that's more than just the area of interest for this committee. And then just at the bottom there, just a few shots of some of the kinds of projects that we did this year. So I think those ones are mostly all in the Wairinga catchment, the two on the left. So you can see a big slip there. We've done a big afforestation project there, fixed the slip, hopefully, and kind of incorporated those native forest fragments into that restoration. In the middle one there, you can see some rock groins and then some big erosion works at the bend there. And those rock groins are helping to protect some of those plantings that you can see that we've done a couple of years back on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, that big steep face is where we've done some afforestation. I thought that was pretty amazing to be able to go into some land like that and get some work done.
We've got a question from Trustee Turner online. What is the process to engage your team? I don't know, Donald, if you wanted to speak any more to that, are you happy?
Oh, yep.
Just
Kia ora,
go
yeah.
ahead and, oh, there we go,
It's
Donald.
Yeah, sorry. It's just that what's the process of engagement and identifying any projects that people might, if they're interested or have land or etc.
They can come through to the team. On the Regional Council webpage, it shows you where all the zones are and who are the key contact people. We've met recently with Jaden's team and sort of basically talked them through about how our program works. And of course, Jaden knows because he used to work in it. And so that's probably the main way, or they can just ring the Regional Council and they will be put on to the Catchment Management Officer for the area that they're in, or the River Management Officer. And then they'll come out to the land and have a look at what work they want to do, and it then becomes a negotiation really to see if it suits the funding that we've got and sort of meets the aspirations that they have for their land.
Councillor Mahuta.
Thank you for the report. Just a quick one on the Lower Lakes work. Those plans, are they due for reviews at all?
The lakes.
The
The
lake strategy for,
Oh,
I think it's district councils
um,
strategy.
sorry, I'm not quite sure which bit you mean.
There's a couple of like for the shallow and lower
Right.
lakes.
Yeah.
A couple of plans.
Oh, okay.
Just asking where they're at. What year are they due for review?
Okay. I probably have to come back to you. That's the Lakes team. So I know a bit about what the work that they're doing, but I don't know that specific detail.
Well, not so much back to me, but to
Oh,
the
to the
iwi
committee.
interests in the
Yes.
area. Are they being spoken into? Are they representing themselves? Do they get to review that plan?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we do have the Waipa District Lakes Group, Lakes Accord Group, and there is iwi representation on that. And the same in the Waikato districts. There's a memorandum of understanding group as well, and they meet quite regularly and sort of coordinate their work programs. Is it?
Yeah.
So
Well,
they
just
would.
in my knowledge, Waikato hasn't had someone in that group, but again, if that's where we're taking our advice from, as region, just I don't know. Kia koe, Jaden.
We're in the Waikato one, the Waikato Lakes group, not in the Waipa that I'm aware of. But yeah, I get what first chairs. I get what you're saying. There is that group could do a lot more. I could say that could, because but it's just the opportunity to talk about lakes. But what projects could we do together? So that has been some feedback as opposed to just patting each other on the back. Which and then our lakes are in dire need. So we're working on that discussion and what that could look like going forward. But keeping in mind that there is a lot going on and don't want to get confused about who's doing what, and we're quite a little bit limited team. So yeah, we're aware and we are working together. I think we meet twice a year, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then just one more question on peace management. Thank you for the report. I just note that we're doing quite a bit. Well, if I take Wallabies, got nothing to do with Waikato Tainui, but here we are heavily involved in that project within the Kaimais. If I take Kalupa out in the thing, and then now we've got the golden clam kind of mahi. I just want to know that we're all giving the same amount of support to those iwi who are showing up for that work within the peace management space. Thank you.
So for the clam, I understand that different stakeholders and partners have been involved with the appropriate meetings and as we lead towards long-term management. So the answer is yes, they're in the room. We're all in the room together on that one.
Just need to get your mic back. There we go.
There are just a couple more slides if you're interested that just show some of the partnership projects that we've been doing. So we have quite a few partnership projects going on. So the one on the left there is the Tapuia Rangi Wetland Restoration. So that's just south of Tarangawaia Marae. We've been working there with the Marae Trust and with Fonterra, basically to try to restore that whole wetland. It's about 7 hectares. We've just applied for some more funding from the Waikato River Authority to complete that project over another 3 years. And we got all the plants coming from the Hopu Hopu Nursery. The Rangariri Spillway in the Lake Waikari Northern Foreshore. This is a project we've been doing with Jaden's group, with funding from both us and the River Authority. 13,000 native plants went in this year, or are going in at the moment as we speak, I think. And that work's being done by Waterside Planters. I can see those guys there. Next one. We've also been working again with Waikato Tainui with funding from the River Authority for restoration around Hopu Hopu, doing a lot of the puna around that. That's a 4-year project, 27,500 native plants, so quite a substantial project that's going on in that area. And they are also at the point of, I think they're just doing some weed and some site prep at the moment, planting to come. And then a new group that we've been working with in the Mangawhero floodplain, so just down from our big fish passage at the down towards Aka, and that's with Ngāti Tiata, just working on some of their land around there, and a riparian program. Very weedy site as a lot of that Lower Waikato River is, and they've set themselves up a small nursery on the site as well, but we've just provided some funding to help them with the riparian planting work. And then just lastly, this is just a few examples. There's a couple more projects I think that I cover off in the item. Is our 3-year partnership project with Ngāti Hoa Mahi Trust and the Karapiro Monganua catchments. So those are the priority catchments that I talked about previously, and these ones are in the central Waikato zone. They're putting in 60,000 plants. They're all coming from their own nursery. They're pretty much doing everything in this project except the fencing. We have an intern. I think you might have heard from about the interns at the last committee meeting. Yep, so we've got 3 this year. One in this project. It's actually the guy in the middle with the cap on, which is Scott Verco. He's worked at the Ngāti Hoa Mahi Trust. He's Hugh Verco's grandson. So it's something Hugh really wanted for an opportunity for him to come and work as an intern here. So that's happening. And we've got another summer intern starting, Sylvie from, she'll be the Waikato Tainui one coming up this summer. And then I think there's maybe just a couple more slides. Yeah. So yes, just 2 more slides. One's just to talk just very briefly about the Priority Biodiversity Sites program. There's 300 sites over the region that have been identified as priority restoration sites. In your area, it's a lot of the priority sites are the lakes, the big wetlands like Pangapanga, Opuatia, Whangamarino, and a few of the larger forest remnants and quite a lot of the kahikatea sedans, especially like in the city in Kirikiriroa. Yeah, and that involves a whole range of activities. It could be some monitoring, it could be fencing, retirement. Usually it's guided by a restoration plan. And the process for that is sometimes we go out and seek work with the people who are in those places, but quite often it's word of mouth and they'll come into us. Our catchment management teams often work with the landowners on these sites, and that's sort of another way that we kind of connect in with the biodiversity teams to get this type of work done. And then just lastly, just one on the lakes. So the shallow lakes and wetland program, so in the last year, they renewed the consents at Lake Ariari and Piko Piko, which are part of those Horsham Downs peat lakes. And then at Lake Maratoto, which is just south of Ohapo. And then they've done quite a few other lake wetland projects. That's in the last year. So the big shovel-ready one at Opuatia wetland is just finishing up now. And that's been almost 4 years. Trying to control yellow flag, get rid of the yellow flag in there. And target some other weeds, and we've done quite a lot of planting as well. Like Ohinawai has been with Waikato District and the Waikato River Care. Like Wahi, we've been working with Ed Berryman to restore the puna. And Lake Millisich with the landowners there, huge restoration, increasing the buffer around that little peat lake. And then Lake Maratoto is kind of just kicking off. And that will be a full partnership project with Ngāti Hoa Mahi Trust. Thanks.
Nice. Any questions for Jaden? Jaden?
I don't mind just through the chairs. I just want to acknowledge the team's support for our team over the years. Not being biased because I used to work here and in their team, but the response to the clams, and they're working quite closely with our team, the initiative that they've done. MPI have dropped the ball. It's been quite frustrating working with them. But the team, biosecurity team, did take some initiative and plan for some solutions, as well as the supporters, the ICM team, they've done to our team, but also our whānau. We've got quite a good relationship. But that did raise a question, Donald, that we might have to get you onto our Tawa forum to explain more about what you guys do in front of our people. So kia ora koutou.
Any other comments?
Yeah, just a comment from me. It's really great to have this report. We often spend a lot of time talking about the policy elements, which is really important, and the planning elements. But I think this is the first time that we've had like a comprehensive report on the work that you're doing on the ground. So I just really appreciate the time to see the work, to get a better understanding of what you do. Where the opportunities might lie for our whānau alongside the tribe, because it's sort of sparking some ideas from me that I'll talk to the team about rather than just throwing those on you right now, but just really appreciate the work that you're doing and the paper. Kia ora.
Thank you. Can I get a mover to accept the report?
Better move.
Councillor Nicol, I'm happy to second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Just Just a comment from Donna Paula, just so you can hear it. Great report. And Mahitahi, with other stakeholders, nice to celebrate. Well done. Kia ora. All right. Well, now, are we moving back to the biodiversity accord?
I
now?
haven't managed to get hold of Judy, but we can get the recorder move on with
Yeah. We'll hold it and see if she's available before the end of the meeting. Okay, so we're now moving on to item 6.6. This is on page 157 of your agenda. An update on the strategic work program, MAHIA to MAHI, and meeting actions. Roger.
Tuatahi, just e whakapā atu nei, wara au ki tuku mihi. Hoi no, I roto aku whakaro ka rongo hia, te koraki nena. Hoi no, kanui te mihi ki a tātou katoa. Me aua mihi, me aua tangi ki tō tātou kingi. Me te ariki nui kuini nā waihono. Yeah, thank you. And I think I'm also doing this jointly with Sarah, who's the MAHIA to MAHI as well. But just to summarize the strategic work program, there's some things that are going well. There's some things that have been delayed. I just want to briefly touch on a little bit of both. And you'll see that the sustainable procurement strategy, spatial information training, site visits, and project focus for 2024 are going well. So firstly, just on the site visits, it was my intention to come with a firm site for us to visit. I have been discussing with Jasmine Whanga, the lakes manager. I've got a really good lake. I'd like us to visit Okofo. But of course, we can't just decide to do it. There needs to be discussion with the stakeholders, and there's a meeting coming up soon, and I hope to be able to confirm it after that. So there will be information coming forward. I'm assuming that's going to go forward. If not, we were talking with Paula before, and she was going, "Oh, I think our joint projects are too small." But what we might be able to do is maybe combine some of the smaller projects and maybe just hop over. But we'll give you more information about that soon. In terms of the procurement, our procurement manager Aston is really supportive of doing that. He's held up by the fact that we're waiting for America to work with our info system to put in some of the technical aspects so that we can have that connection of identify iwi affiliations of some of our contractors. He recently met with Julia Darlington, so he's upskilling himself, getting to know what are some of the thinking and how he can really make sure social procurement is being achieved here. The Ture Whaimana reporting tool is with our business intelligence team, and that's still there, and I hope to be able to report that some actual progress at our next meeting, but I haven't got anything to report at the moment. With our community preparedness strategy, I understand that Julian did meet with Waikato Tainui, so Julian Snowball, the manager over there, CDEM, he did meet with Waikato Tainui. However, in preparation for I think agenda item 6.10, I've been learning about some of the difficulties that they had. The community preparedness strategy is in the group plan, but one of the nuances of that plan is that there's so much in it, they ended up deciding certain priorities, and that wasn't one of the priorities. So I hope in agenda item 6.10, we can see a much brighter future coming forward with the group plan, the new group plan review. And Vicky Cowley will be online to discuss that. That's all I have for that. In terms of the actions, some of them have been clearly done. The workshop was going to be this morning. The Kerry Nelson has stated that in terms of shovel-ready projects being communicated with about making applications to Natural Heritage Program, that's done. Just in terms of translating council names, Piata, Graham and I...
Sorry, Roger, what page are you looking at?
Oh, sorry. I apologise. 165. We have had a trial of translating some of our role names into Māori, acknowledging that getting the mix right between a manager and a team leader and then a principal advisor, when you've got like pō whakahaere, kai whakahaere, kai arahi, pō arahi, making sure that there's separation in the Māori as there is in the English, and also making sure that when someone explains who they are in Māori, it actually makes sense to those who understand Māori. So they've ended up being a little bit longer, but it's a trial. We trialed it with West Coast and Waikato Zone, and tomorrow we're going to see how that goes. So we'll be able to inform you more on that a little bit later on. That's all I have for me, and I just wonder, Sarah, just in terms of MAHIA to MAHI, do you have anything?
Kia ora tātou. Thank you, Roger, and hello to our committee members and co-chairs. As noted by Roger, I am available to provide an update on MAHIA Te Mahi, the implementation strategy, and that's pages 168 to 176 in the report. Just noting, I am happy to take those as read and just respond to any questions you may have. I just make the overall comment that we have made some really good progress since the last co-governance hui, and just working really closely with Waikato Tainui on the implementation of these actions.
Councillor Mahuta.
Thank you for the report. Excellent report. I think it does show, I guess, the legs of this mahi, because it has been a lot of very organised cup of teas. So, pai ngāhua ka puta mai. Probably my question to us more than the report is, how does this work show our preparedness if fast track is the way forward in terms of commissioners, people ready to stand in hearings and in that space? How can we work with the iwi to assure ourselves that you guys are well dressed when that, when that steam train rolls in? Because apparently it's going to be fast. We're going to need names overnight, et cetera, et cetera. So to the work we've done, excellent. To the work we're getting ready for, just wondering, I guess, how we can position the work so that we're not chasing each other when any of these things speed up, mainly the resource consent speed up that we know will occur, te rāpia, any planning. But to that one, I just want to acknowledge your work, Sarah, because I know that role comes to, we've already acknowledged you in council, but just in terms of at this table, all the work that you've done in catchment, mahi nui ki a koe. I knew some work had been done because the name of their boat, I totally agree with. So, nei anō te mihi kia koutou. But yeah, just if things were to speed up, what else do we need to do? Because I understand just in the commissioner space, we don't have too many people that can sit on hearings. And some of our people are the same people the River Authority will want to use. So, tērā, and I think we're in a good position, Mali, to have that conversation because we know who has the requisite skill and experience. So tēnā koe. Thank you.
Sorry,
Kia ora
we might
tata.
have missed something on our side. Are you leaving, Sarah? Because I don't think.
Yes, I was going to acknowledge that once we got through the this and the next item, but yes, Sarah will be leaving us, but we'll come back to that. We'll let you finish the mahi off, eh? And then we'll say thanks.
Kia ora. Appreciate that.
Nice. Are there any other questions in relation to 6.6?
Yep. So I guess when we landed on the implementation plan, we asked a pretty direct question around the ability to meet timeframes and the resources that had been allocated and the funding that had been allocated to deliver on those, pretty ambitious but reasonable implementation plans. I see that on a number of the actions, the dates have either, we've gone well past those dates, or they're coming up really soon. So I guess just wanting to ask the question around resourcing, whether regional councils still have the resource, and there'll be some, I acknowledge there'll be some tasks that you require our input into, but do regional council have the resource to continue to drive delivery of the implementation plan?
As far as I'm aware, the only action that's been delayed, particularly by resource, is the Natural Heritage Fund, which we don't resource it. It's not a resourced group. So it's people getting together from the various agencies. I'm not sure if I'm able to answer you definitively, but it's my understanding that the delays are not caused by, the other delays are not caused by resource, but by other factors. Yes, so the prioritization of the Community Preparedness Fund, the Infor technical issue that we just not set up for that. What were the other ones? Oh, the business, so Te Ture Whai Mana, I think that's just, it's a matter of thinking through what's going to be best, but I'm not actually sure. That's not an area of my expertise, so I'm not quite sure what's required there, but it is with our team and they have taken it on. So in terms of resource, I think it's okay. Yeah.
So not wanting to take away from the achievements and the things that have been done, I guess just acknowledging that first and foremost. But there is quite a lot of orange in the schedule. We probably need to revisit the timing just so you can think about and drive delivery of those actions. Otherwise, it'll just be a report that we look at that's completely out of date and we're not really driving to achieve. So if I can just ask that happens. With the marae preparedness mahi, we've been pretty clear that is one of our strategic priorities. I find it interesting that CDEM can just go and make their own calls around what their strategic priorities are. And I'm looking at our team as well, what ability do we have to influence, I guess, their priorities? First question. The second question is, do we need them? There are a lot of resources around anyway to support the outcome we're looking to deliver, which is to ensure that our marae are prepared in the event that another disaster strikes. So, just team.
Kia ora, through the chairs. Yeah, I did. It was me that met with Julian Snowball, who's the group controller for Waikato. And I think that he shared with me that they were a little bit stuck in terms of bringing all, because the region is bigger than just Waikato, it's Tainui Waka. And so they were looking for some support to bring everybody along. Now that we've asked them to participate,
that means we can bring tainui waka in as well. So you're right, Jackie. Within the councils, there's been some great work being done around marae preparedness. So at Waikato District, Gannon Ormsby's been leading that. At Waipa, Kathy Shaw, and Hamilton City, we've had our first conversations with them about their role, given that there isn't all the maraes within Hamilton City are ngā hauewha, you know, not Waikato maraes. So there's a lot of progress in those spaces, but really, given that there's an overarching responsibility at the CD civil defence space, we thought it was important that they understand what we are doing to prepare and what their contribution is, particularly with our experience with past things that people tend to navigate to marae, and that some marae are interested in understanding what it means to become a civil defence centre. So really that's their input. So in terms of influencing their priorities, I'm not sure whether the fact that they couldn't get any traction contributed to that, but we intend, so we are meeting, I'm getting the leads from Tainui Waka to meet with him before the end of the year, and to bring him on board in terms of what we're doing in our iwi spaces to ensure our maraes are ready for the next, whether it's a extreme weather event or, don't say it, you know, something like we had in 2019. So that's a report I can give you, and our work streams will give, our work stream leads can bring another report to this committee if that's useful for our next meeting about specifics of what we're doing. So I hope that's useful.
No, that's real helpful. Thank you, Mara. So I've been on the CDEM's case since I became a councillor here. I'm hoha. The last two national reports have said work with your iwi because there's you know, resources in that space that you're unaware of, council. Our particular crew have taken the whakaaro that they've got to get us iwi chairs in the room. So I said, all right, me and Kata here, that's 2 out of 5. Yeah, but we haven't even had a conversation yet. So the problem is definitely not yours, it's council's approach. I've asked Tauranga Whenua to follow that up. I'm still not happy that we're having the right conversation at the right time. Happy that the management conversation's being had, but I'm not happy with our CDEM approach. And you've been in those conversations, you've heard me say it, Noel. We need to ask iwi for who their appropriate person is, whoever that person is, to engage in the conversation we have, which is all the council send one person to this committee so that we can talk civil defence. Now, in terms of reference said, we're going to invite iwi into that room. But our particular lean has been, oh, we need the chair of that iwi in the room, which is impossible, right? Over a civil defence emergency that hasn't happened, you're not going to get the chairs in a room. So I'm trying to say, let the iwi decide who they send in the room. If you need it to be of a trustee or a governance thing, kei te pai, but we shouldn't be directing that traffic from our side of the table. And we're the ones causing this. It's not iwi's willingness to engage. So I say that in front of my council colleagues, so you'll help me, because this manager has been resistant and I've been here as long as he is. So thank you.
I am just thinking that we've got item 6.9, which is specifically about CDEM. So just thinking that let's pick this up on that item. All right?
Yeah, I think that
Okay.
that question will be answered. Another part of that, the answer in terms of the strategic planning. And as I see Vicky Cowley's online, and so we can address that again at that time.
Great. So we'll pick this up again on item 6.9. Okay.
Madam Chair, can I just support Councillor Mahuta on that point? Our controller has shown his colours during the COVID, where he did a lot of telling, but not a lot of listening. So we need to support iwi as our partners.
Let's pick this up again on item 6.9. All right. Is there anything else for item 6.6? Because if there isn't, I then want to go to, because the next item has got Sarah, so I'll just get you to hold over there, Judy, and we'll close that off. Okay.
Yeah,
So
sorry,
yes.
I guess just to follow up my comments around the number of activities that are orange, can we see like what your plan is to get those back on track? And if that means having to adjust timeframes, just like tell us, like between meetings. Yeah, great. Thank you, Roger.
All right, so can I get a mover to accept the report? Does Donald, somebody online want to get in there?
Yep, I can.
Nice. Moved by trustee Turner and seconded by Councillor Mahuta. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, we're now going to go to 6.7, which is Sarah.
Yeah.
So we'll go to item 6.7. This is page 178 of your agenda, the vessel update. Sarah, a little, oh, you're on mute there. Just a little
Kia ora.
parting shot on the vessel, eh?
I know, an opportunity always. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair, and as noted by Pamela, I'm going to be presenting briefly on the vessel report today and just including an overall update on the project itself and engagement with tangata whenua. And I note that we've got Jade in at today's hui, and I think also Nicholas Manukau, and just welcome any points that they may wish to add as part of this agenda item. Both Nicholas and Jaden have been closely involved in the engagement work stream, which has been extremely valuable. So key points that I would like to highlight from the report include the procuring of the new vessel, Te Roa, and the resource consent process, which provided a really great opportunity to engage with tangata whenua on how the vessel would support future restoration priorities on both the Waikato and Waipa rivers. And so in collaboration with Waikato Tainui and the Waikato River Authority, an advisory group was established to provide advice and guidance on tangata whenua engagement and to identify the tribal and marae priorities to inform the vessel's future work program. And it was a really comprehensive cultural assessment, which was led with the help of Nicholas Manukau. In general, as noted in the report, tangata whenua noted the support for the new vessel and recognised the role that the vessel will play in supporting river restoration, which is really positive. The project itself, the vessel construction is nearing completion, and we're expecting it to be completed late this year, early next year. The mooring and dry docking facility that was completed several months ago, that's at Mirimiri there, and that will be the home of the vessel. And then as a next step, we're expecting the sea trials to take place at Whangarei, where the vessel has been constructed in around about November, and we expect that that will take about a month with those sea trials all going well. And then in conjunction with that, we're just working closely with Waikato Tainui on arrangements for blessing Te Roa and what that may involve. And it's expected that there would be a blessing that would take place in both Whangarei and in the Waikato River as well. So they were the key points that I wanted to note, and don't want to put Jaden or Nicholas on the spot, but if there's anything that you would like to add as well, you're most welcome.
Kia ora koutou. Just to add, there's been quite strong support for the vessel, particularly its role from a tangata whenua perspective in terms of assisting, supporting in the restoration efforts up and along the river. So that's something that was made quite clear to us. They may not have been familiar with the dimensions and what it will eventually look like, but they truly understand the capability as well as the capacity of the vessel to serve the community and the rivers. And probably just the second point about some of the Apawa River iwi, we were wanting to understand how the vessel could support them as well. I understand it can be broken down and transported by land, and so iwi throughout the motu, or throughout Aotearoa are quite keen to see the vessel in operation. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Nicholas.
I'll just add too, we're just currently working on, in collaboration on the blessing and the appropriate people who should be going up to whangarei to conduct that in partnership with the council. So we're just doing that as we speak. I think we're just trying to figure out the launch date, Sarah. And then once we have that, we'll be able to put together and who should be going up. And just want to make it out again, once you got some good staff here at Regional Council and they employ some good people. So we wouldn't have got to this point without these two, along with the other work programs that they're on as well. So kia ora koutou.
Hapai, kia ora. Thank you, Jaden. And just noting, you know, and we'll cover this off from what Madam Co-Chair Pamela has mentioned next about my departure, but in relation to the vessel project, I will be handing over the vessel sponsorship role to Julie Beaufort, who's currently the ICM portfolio manager. So happy to take any questions.
Sarah, do you want to mention what the delay has caused the issue about when it might arrive in the Waikato? Thanks.
Yes, certainly. So I think in essence there's probably a number of factors with the construction delay, including a change of staff at the shipyard who are building the vessel. But I think probably the key one is just underestimating just how involved the construction of the vessel is. So, you know, there's a significant amount of welding, which is part of the construction, and the sandblasting and painting. So that has put us a number of months behind schedule. And then with the delay in schedule, one of the, I guess, knock-on effects of that, which is an issue, is the delivery of the vessel during a period of time, that being later this year, early next year, when the river levels are low and having sufficient depth to support that delivery. So we are working through a few options in terms of how we best manage that.
All right. Any other questions in relation to this item? Did you have any?
Just a question around how big is it? Like, what is the size?
Oh, she's big. It's big.
Bigger than the one.
Yes, so it's a very similar size to the previous barge. It's just slightly larger in width. So it's 24.5 metres long and 8.5 metres wide. You'll see that there's some pictures in the agenda there, which probably, when you have a look at the surrounding environment there, give you sort of a bit of an idea of the proportion of it. So there's certainly a bit of steel in it.
Thank you, Sarah. And just really wanting to acknowledge the approach that the team, the organisation have taken to this project and this investment. I think it's a great example of how we can work closely together to achieve great outcomes in appropriate ways that adopt our tikanga, and look forward to receiving the invitation to go to whangarei, Jaden. And
nice.
Do you have one more paper, Sarah, or is that you?
No, I think that is Sarah. So so now would be an appropriate time to say thank you, Sarah, for all of your work for so many years in support of not only our organization and integrated catchment, but also the wider community. Your willingness to lean in to conversations, no matter whether they get really uncomfortable or a little bit challenging. you lean in. And I just want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge the skill that you bring in terms of not only the technical knowledge, but also your willingness to engage in relationship building has been something that has been a pleasure to witness in the time that I have been on council, and also has served the community really well. And you are going to be missed. I second what you were saying, Jaden, about the skilled staff we have in this organization, and you, Sarah, have always been really top notch in the contribution you make to our organization and to our community. So, and I'm going to just force you to sit there, and I'm just going to open it up to other committee members if anybody wanted to say anything to Sarah, seeing as she won't be in front of us again.
Kia ora, Sarah. I just want to echo the sentiments from co-chair Pamela. It's been wonderful getting to know you around this table, and the different projects and portfolios that you've been managing, but also to see the people that you've been pulling through the organisation, and I guess that legacy that you'll be leaving behind, not only from the staff that we don't see, but from our own people who we do see, that you've had a role in mentoring and pulling up and through this organisation and work in the taiao space, either directly as employees or as contractors. Our people have gained a lot from working alongside you, and many of them have come home. But for those that haven't yet, they continue to work for us as they work in the environmental space. So I understand that you're moving to Taupo.
Yes.
So you'll still have a role in ensuring the health of our awa is restored up there. And really looking forward to seeing you in the future. But just thank you once again, Sarah, for all of your mahi and the time that I've been involved in this committee. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora, Sarah. Obviously, we knew each other before the Regional Council. It's been lovely to have you at the Regional Council while I'm here as well, and I wish you all the best in Taupo. The co-managed lands piece in particular will be the one where I'll always think of you, knowing how overdue and complicated that was, and having your brain help untangle it gave me a lot of faith that we've got something really solid going forward. All the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Oh,
Hopefully that
thank
wasn't too painful that we forced you to listen to all of those great words about you. I know that I know you well enough that you were grinning and bearing it, but sometimes it's important that you hear it.
Oh, thank you all so much. I really appreciate your kind words, and I really, really value the opportunity and the people that I've got to work with, and the areas that I've got to work on, and particularly as part of this co-governance and some really key areas and people, and it's really been invaluable, and I'll certainly miss that. But as noted, I will be still working to look after the awa, but a little bit further away, but still within the Waikato region, but with Taupo District Council. So thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. Mati wā.
Thank you. All right,
Kia ora,
we
Madam
need
Chair.
to receive that. Oh, sorry, Donald, did you want to?
Yeah, I did pop something in the chat, Sarah, but e mihi ana ki a koe me o mahi katoa, for all of us and all of our people, and appreciate the professionalism and the connections since being on the Governance Joint Management Committee. E mihi ana ki a koe. Haere ki rungi te rangi Māori e. Pai Māori ki a koe.
Kia ora.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Donald.
much.
All right, I need a mover and a seconder for the report.
I'm happy to move.
We've got a mover in Trustee Collier and a second in Councillor Mahuta. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we're going to circle back to 6.4. No, we're going to circle back to 6.4. The Waikato Biodiversity Accord update. This is on page 50, and we have Judy Van Rossum.
Kia ora tātou. Yes, Sarah is a very hard act to follow, so I'll do my best. and Arahamai. I did have a little mix up with meeting times today, so apologies for that. So just providing a progress update on the Waikato Biodiversity Accord with key stakeholders, which is one of the goals in the Council's strategic direction. So just to recap, we have the MPSIB, and one of the directives is that it contains is the requirement for regional councils to develop a regional biodiversity strategy, which is a plan for restoring biodiversity at a landscape scale. And so we're starting this process with the Waikato Biodiversity Accord, which is a high-level non-statutory voluntary agreement with key agency stakeholders and iwi partners to work together for biodiversity. So it's that first step in developing a regional biodiversity strategy. So really it's about starting off on the right foot in terms of relationship building and getting the right people in the room to tease out some of the biodiversity issues and priorities that we can include in that strategy. So the latest draft of the Accord, which we've had some discussions with Jaden and the legal team at Tainui, and so that's provided as an attachment to the agenda. It's in the form of a simple high-level voluntary agreement. As I mentioned before, it's got a purpose statement, a set of principles. We've changed the objectives to being a framework for the regional biodiversity strategy rather than objectives, a statement of commitment, and we've also now included some short summaries of the main iwi environmental management plans. And we've also provided a companion document that provides some context to the Accord, and this has been informed by feedback during the engagement process. So the Accord document does look a little bit different to the one presented to this committee at the last co-governance meeting. So over the last few months, we've engaged further, particularly with territorial authorities and iwi partners, and held wānanga, particularly with our Hauraki iwi representatives, because they weren't responding to our invitations at the beginning. So it isn't, you probably appreciate, it's not an easy task to get agreement on the wording with so many different entities, but we do think that we're getting there, and we're nearly there now. So just some of the changes include those summaries of the iwi environmental plans that draw out specific aspirations relating to biodiversity. We didn't want to go into too much detail there, otherwise the Accord document would end up being quite a very long document, and we didn't want that. But we feel that there's enough there to signal these points so that they can be further explored and referred to when developing the regional biodiversity strategy. We've also fleshed out some of the principles, especially the first one around te tiriti, and providing some context up front relating to tangata whenua and that intergenerational guardianship and kaitiakitanga in respect of biodiversity. And just noting that those concepts are inherent in the National Policy Statement as well. So we've also included a statement in there saying that ensuring that the document remains flexible and that it is regularly reviewed. So it's important to recognise that this Accord is that first step in a longer process to develop a regional biodiversity strategy. The MPSIB is quite directive in terms of requiring regional councils to develop these strategies in a collaborative manner with tangata whenua. And this is where there will be opportunities for iwi entities to have that specific input and to put forward their biodiversity goals for particular areas of their rohe. So our engagement process will need to ensure that that happens. So Council's aiming for the Accord to be finalised very soon, and those who wish to become supporters or signatories to sign by the end of the year. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Oh, and before I finish, sorry, we are looking at getting the document sort of laid up as well into a nicely formatted and designed.
Any questions? No.
If I can, and I'm not intending to be upsetting anybody, but as a councillor, I heard words to the effect, and I'll probably paraphrase them a bit, that getting to know our partners, where, you know, it's basically, it sounded like we're starting from scratch again and working with all these people. And when I've actually been through this document, and yeah, we've got MPI, Department of Conservation, Kiwi2, they're not new to us. All the river iwi, all the iwi in our region, all the TAs, none of them are new to us. So why are we talking about establishing relationships? And I am paraphrasing here, but this is the way I heard what you said, is that we're back to square one again. And so why haven't we as a council got mature relationships with our treaty partners, with our TAs, and with these key government agencies in Kiwi too? It just doesn't sound right to me that I'm forever hearing we're starting this relationship, we're building this relationship. An ongoing relationship does get built on, I appreciate that. But to hear that we're basically at square one, can you help me understand why we're at that every time we try and do something with anybody, particularly these key partners? And I don't know whether that should come from you or whether it should come from the Chief Executive, I'm sorry, but it really does concern me. So if you don't want to answer it, I'm happy and I'll put the question to the Chief Executive, but it does bother me, Madam Chair.
Was that your intent, that our relationship with all of these parties is starting at square one?
It's not the intent to, because they're individual entities, the intent is to have us working together for a specific purpose of developing a regional biodiversity strategy. So it's having those entities in the room together, because sometimes we do end up in adversarial situations. I'm thinking particularly around some of the district plan provisions for biodiversity, and that we do end up in the environment court with district councils, for instance. So this is really about trying to get the right people in the room together to really tease out those issues, and to the accords about ensuring that we recognise that there are those things that we need to work on to make a strategy that's going to be robust and implementable.
I just want to go back to you, Noel. Does that clarify for you? Oh, sorry, Tipa, can I get you to release the mic?
I understand the statement that's just been made, but I don't think it addresses my concerns, and I think I need to elevate that to the Chief Executive in the context of this discussion, as opposed to, and I don't think it's fair on you to answer it from where I'm actually, in fairness to you. So I'll take that offline, Madam Chair.
Councillor Clarkson, did you want to add something to that specific, and then I will come to you, Councillor Mahuta, but just Councillor Clarkson, did you have something to add specifically to that?
Yes, I just thought I'd make the comment that it is the National Policy Statement on Indigenous Biodiversity, which is the new framework that has initiated this piece of work, and that requirement for a regional restoration plan, which is somewhat new. I mean, that while some of those ideas have been floating around for a while, this is a formal requirement for the Regional Council to kick this off. And so I think what we have here is an example of not starting from scratch, but of trying to bring the partners in the accord into a new framework. When I say new framework, I'm thinking wasn't it August 2022, or quite a while ago, when the NPS was passed. But then, of course, there were some changes in government, and there were some elements of the NPS which were slightly changed. But that's the framework that has led to the position we're in today. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Clarkson. That was my understanding of what's proposed here. And while we have had long historical relationships with all of these parties, this is bringing them together within a new framework, within a new context. So that's my understanding of it. I've got Councillor Mahuta, and then I do see your hand up, Haruna. So I'll come to you after Councillor Mahuta. Okay. Councillor Mahuta.
Just a couple of questions. In terms of the accord, what's the so we're in processes, but what's the landing date? What day will we arrive for each other, and in what plan will we go back out to the people with this? So that's one, destination and timing. And then coming back into it, I know we've done accords in the past. I'm just asking, is this the best way for us to arrive at that destination? Because we keep engaging iwi in non-statutory work that may or may not ever land a plane. And I'd rather them use their energy on things that will land planes for them. Bad analogy, but it's the one I've got for today. So just wondering if, as a CORD, the strongest methodology forward, I know it's the one we've had, but is it the strongest way to get to where we need to go to? Noting your points, Councillor Clarkson, we must do this and we must deliver something. And the other one is, we've just had a really busy traffic lighted Mahia te Mahi thing. This was another piece of work that isn't currently in those traffic lights. But I'm just noting to council, we always ask iwi to send good people into non-statutory processes, which may or may not have an end, if you know what I mean. So just trying to seek the timing on this from you more specifically, so that, again, the effort can be noted. Kia ora, Jill.
I'll just respond briefly. So I'm not sure I can answer the first part of your question about whether the board is the best way to go about this, because that was sort of determined at a higher level than me. But in terms of the statutory sort of follow on, if you like, from this, the idea behind the strategy is to bring those issues into one document, if you like, that can then be, there would potentially be some statutory outcomes out of that. So things that would maybe be included into district plans or the regional plan, or whatever kind of plan we're going to end up with after the resource management reform. So
we have a target date to finish this planning, or is it just as it evolves?
So the regional biodiversity strategy, we would like to complete that within the next 2 to 3 years. So we're looking ahead at the next long-term plan cycle to try and,
Just to follow on from that, when are you hoping to land the accord?
By the end of the year. So we are looking at the next sort of 2.
I've got some comments to make, but I'll let.
Karuna, would you like to? Oh, your hand's gone down. Does that mean
Yeah,
you?
kia ora koutou.
Kia ora.
I was just, I guess, following on from what Councillor Mahuta was saying in terms of, I guess, what kind of extra leverage or bargaining power does it allow the partners within this accord to have? Because I guess from our side, Waikato Tainui, we already have existing agreements and accords and our settlement legislation that we can use, I guess, to address urgent matters with different councils and territorial authorities. So I guess from our point of view, we're just kind of wondering, I guess, how it increases our power to engage. That makes sense.
Okay, so it's about the accord is about really prioritising those areas and habitats that are in need of restoration, and also those issues around biodiversity that maybe haven't been dealt with very well in the past, and ensuring that we've got those right entities in, to discuss those issues going forward. So we often don't have, we may be in a situation, often in a situation where we're just in a room with the district council, but not necessarily in talking about these issues with the other entities as well. So really the accord is about bringing those organisations together and moving forward on some of these really difficult kind of conversations that we might need to have around biodiversity.
And sorry, just to follow on from that as well. So within this accord, would there also be note, or I guess any reference to funding in relation to these projects?
So the intention of the strategy is to have some detail in there around how these initiatives will be funded. And that's one of the reasons why we're looking at bringing this strategy into the long-term plan cycle, or finishing it in time, at least as a draft for the next long-term plan cycle, so that we've got some actions that can be funded through council plans, long-term plans.
All right, nice. I got a thumbs up, saw that. Councillor Clarkson.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to follow on from Judy's comments and remind us that This national policy statement was put in place by a previous government. And in fact, at the time of it being put in place by the previous government, there was talk of some funding opportunities that would become available to regions that had gone through the process in the way that Judy has outlined. And while we can't now be certain about what might happen in relation to the current government, we can be absolutely certain that the same principles are likely to apply to any central government available funding, where unless an accord like this has been put in place, and unless all of the parties are in a single application, rather like some of the issues we're confronting with regional economic development, then it would be extremely unlikely that central government would come to the funding party. So I think this is good practice that's occurring here, and it's an attempt to put us in the room when and if an opportunity arises. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Clarkson. I appreciate that additional clarity. All right. Any other questions?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
I just wanted to make a few comments. Kia ora, Judy. Firstly, just want to acknowledge the work that's taken place since this was presented to us initially. I can see in the changes that have been made that you heard what we said, and that you've worked with our members of our team to try and capture those areas that we thought were missing. So I think that's really shown through in the updated accord. I think that the companion material is really helpful. So just wanted to mihi to you and the team who have worked to update and present this second version to us. I guess we, sort of similar to, I think, where Karuna was heading, we're very conscious that we have existing settlement mechanisms that capture biodiversity and should really be leverage for us to drive for biodiversity priorities within the existing framework that we exist. So we're a little like we're cautiously supportive because it's for positive environmental outcomes. So we support that. We support working together, but we're cautious that it's potentially another tick boxing exercise, without being offensive, because the MPS IB says you have to do this. So I guess we are cautiously supportive. From my perspective, I'll take this back to our organisation just to have a kōrero with the board and some of our taiao experts about it. I think any opportunity that it provides us to leverage and bargain, as Karuna has said, policy direction, planning direction, investment decisions is a tick for us. I guess we would always, though, reserve the right to utilise our bespoke mechanisms through our settlements to drive for the things that might be urgent or are priorities for us that aren't necessarily captured in the biodiversity strategy that's eventually developed. But I think that your first principle, Te Tiriti o Waitangi and treaty settlements as a foundation, sort of captures that sentiment. So I guess just wanted to make those comments. We will take this back and have a kōrero amongst ourselves. If you can let us know what your proposed date is to try and land the accord, then we can try and feed into your timeframes. So kia ora.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Jaden's just got some comments.
Yeah, I just want to talk the comments and Judy working real hard on this. I'll just introduce that was Karuna from our Rights and Interest team, one of our advisors. Yeah, and from operational, that's what we've been echoing too. We think we talked about this because it's got the word accord. We've got multiple accords, and we're a highly political realm at the moment with the current coalition government, not to get political on this table, but as operational stuff, we've got to be very careful about how we sign stuff and stuff like that. So yeah, it's having conversations at all levels. So just wanted to talk about the work that Judy's been doing with us as well. Kia ora.
All right. Can we get a mover and seconder to receive the report? Mover in Trustee Collier and second in Councillor Nicol. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now jumping forward again to item 6.8. This is the Climate Change Alliance on page 187. And we've got Molly.
Madam Co-Chair, tēnā koe, e rau rangatira mā tēnā koutou. I know we're way behind schedule. We were scheduled to wrap up at 2:00, so I'll keep this really very brief. This item is an initial kōrero with you about a proposal to develop a joint climate change action document. The report notes that Whakatupuranga 2050 includes specific climate change actions, as does the Council's climate action roadmap, and so highlights the opportunity to create a cohesive strategy that will connect our shared goals, leverage collective resources, and also foster community-led initiatives. And so what we're doing today is, I guess, raising the opportunity with you, our co-governors. If you would like us to do some further mahi, further thinking, then we would go away and socialise this idea with relevant staff in our organisation and at Waikato Tainui, and bring back some further thinking. So that's it in a nutshell. Of course, we've got our chair for our Climate Action Committee here today, and so Jen may have already had these thoughts and or be having conversations to this item, and so I'll just hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this agenda item was born out of a conversation that co-chair Jackie and I had a month or two ago, where I was sharing some of the work that we have started with the Raukawa iwi, and that started because they had prepared a climate strategy that they presented to our joint management agreement meeting like this, and then what came out of that was, well, you've got a strategy, we've got a strategy, let's use our staff at the Regional Council to check where the alignments are and see if anything falls out of that. So from there we had a fairly informal working group meeting which Tauranga Whenua arranged, and included myself and a couple of staff members alongside Tauranga Whenua, and a few members from the environmental team from Raukawa. And we had a bit of a chat about things, and also identified that a whole lot of actions that would align would also be at the TA level. And so we will explore, and it's one of my actions from that, how to include the relevant TAs for the rohe in that little informal working group, and seeing how that flows into the other JMA that they have with those TAs. Anyway, the opportunity is just to do something similar with Waikato Tainui. We've talked for a fair while that you have aspirations with it, and it's always whether they're listed in the 5-year plan or the environmental plan or any other strategy you've got, like your marae development plans that are coming or being developed. We don't have to be super comprehensive. The informal nature of the work group is we just kind of figure out what works for you. And then what I would see next is that a update report would come of what that alignment kind of looks like, what's spit out of it to, say, the next JMA meeting. And then you can either say, that's cool, that's actually all quite well covered off in the strategic work plan already, or there's one extra thing which we'll just create another table for, like we did with the MAHIA te MAHIA table that's added to that work plan. And we can keep tracking it there, for example. But I'm certainly currently getting around the TAs and asking them to collaborate at the governance level more, because I feel like after 5 years of chairing the climate work stream here, and obviously through climate roadmap we've developed was first 2020, the recent update last year, we're at a point where we know our stuff well enough and we're rolling well enough that we are keen to engage, and I want to engage governor to governor. but also have these working groups where it then flows into work that we can then just monitor. So that's what I'm putting up as a suggestion, and I'm happy to be the holder of the space. And so if there was, say, one person from a trustee perhaps, and one staff member who are just happy to meet up sometime, and I'll see who I can wrangle from Hamilton City, Waikato District, and if I'm really good, some of those Auckland Council counterparts. But if not, that's fine. We can keep it small and start small. That's just a suggestion there. And yeah, it's not a whole lot of extra, I don't think, unless it was chosen through this committee from those, whatever spits out that they wanted to do that further. Yeah, but a first meetup arranged by Te Ranga Whenua is pretty much what I'm pitching. And then figuring out whether there's more after that. It's really horses for courses with each that I engage with. Going the exact opposite of trying to do the same thing for everybody, which I've learned doesn't work that well. Yeah.
Well, kia ora, Jen. Thank you, Marley and team, for the paper. I'm really supportive of using our combined knowledge and sharing that, you know, rather than everyone starting from zero and going through the same learning process in the same time that a partner may have done. So really supportive of having an initial kōrero. It's developing our climate response plan, climate change strategy is a priority for us as an organisation. I've had a look at your strategy. It looks really good. I'll be honest, I've looked at it, doesn't mean I've read it, but it looks really good and looks like it's adopting, you know, good practice. So I think there's definitely things that we can learn from the process that you've already been through and that you can learn in terms of our focus areas. So really supportive of giving it a go. Yeah. Having a, you know, low-key initial kōrero, even if that is just a catch-up for an hour or two, rather than making any firm commitments about another committee. Yeah.
Just want to express my support and by moving the resolution, and mainly because we are doing a piece of work now, the impact on the insurers for the replacement of infrastructure. The sustainable infrastructure development policy stuff. I tested it if I was asking my marae, is your marae sustainable there, Wāhi, in the floodplain? Because that is a question of the future that we're going to have to ask ourselves. So again, I support it in terms of bringing that information forward so that we can have their planning well ahead of the flood. Okay. But in saying that, I would like this to be a joint bid to other funders by iwi and council.
Yeah, we've discussed that in the previous
whatever climate funding is there, and that we create more climate leaders as a result of the activity. That would be my expectation of both council and iwi. Thank you.
Kia ora. All right, we've got a mover to receive the report. I'll second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, just noting that we have gone over time. I note your apologies for leaving there, Hinarangi. I thank you for being on board, because we were aiming to have finished by 2. So we've got 2 more items to get through, that being the review of the CDEM group plan and also the JMA and CMLA implementation update. So we'll go to 6.9. This is on page 189 of your agenda. And also just noting the previous commentary that we've had in relation to this item. So I'll turn over to you, Roger.
Well, my job is just to introduce Vicky Cowley, who's the strategic planning advisor, and Mark Bang, who's the manager of partnerships. They've got a presentation, so I'll just hand it over to them.
Over to you, Vicky and Mark.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou. Ko Vicky Kelly, Toko Ingoa. I see Roger's already introduced me as the strategic planner, and Mark will be up first. We'll try to get through it as fast as we can as we hear about the time challenges.
Great, thank you. Mark.
Tēnā koutou, ko Mark Bang toko ingoa. I am, as Roger said, partnerships team leader at the CDEM group office. We're going to talk to you about the context of Civil Defence Emergency Management and the group plan that we're developing, and then Vicky will discuss the plan process development. The review of our strategic document is currently underway, and we recognise the importance of iwi and Māori to be involved and to influence the development of the objectives of what is our group strategic plan. In that, we recognise that iwi have their own strategic objectives, especially relating to climate change, and acknowledging the kōrero that's just preceded this one. We also recognise that Māori will respond and do respond to emergencies, and ideally it's our aspiration that the new group plan can align and support iwi Māori aspirations and challenges. Thanks. The next slide, please. So this is the national framework that underpins the work that we're doing. The Act is, look, we have to acknowledge that it is 22 years old. The previous government introduced a draft bill into the House, and that's now been removed from the legislative timetable while government reviews the implications of the various North Island severe weather event reviews that have taken place. We've also got the national plan, which sets out the roles and responsibilities of, in particular, the government agencies, but also some non-government organisations. And that's all very fine. I guess the really important document for my money is the National Disaster Resilience Strategy. And this will underpin the elements of our group plan. So the strategy recognises the importance of Māori worldviews and advises the need to prioritise integrating Māori perspective and tikanga into the emergency management system through greater recognition and understanding of iwi Māori contributions in emergency management. As the strategy doesn't have a national roadmap to guide us, we are going to work through delivering that through our group plan and to build that recognition of kaupapa Māori and tikanga Māori in resilience, in response and in recovery. Thanks, Dave. Next. Look, when we talk about the Waikato Civil Defence Emergency Management Group, this is the rohi. There are 16 groups across New Zealand. The Waikato has the largest number of local authority members and was established in 2003. You'll see that we swapped some parts of geography with the Bay of Plenty region and also with the Hawke's Bay, not just the Bay of Plenty region of Kisikaran and the Manawatu-Wanganui region. That's just where it makes sense to do so. Thanks. Next slide, please. So our group structure is dictated to us by the legislation. We've got our joint committee, which governs us and acknowledge Councillors Mahuta, who is a joint committee member for Waikato Regional Council and Māori advisor, and also Councillor Hodge, who is a Māori advisor to the joint committee. The joint committee, is made up of the mayors or their delegates, or in the regional council's case, the chair or their delegate. The coordinating executive group oversees the activities of the group members, and it's made up of the chief executives of the local authorities or their delegates, plus emergency services representatives. And for example, we have FENS, police, Health New Zealand on our executive group. The delivery is via all of our partners, principally through our councils in the Waikato, but also through all of our partners, and there are many and varied government agencies, non-government agencies, lifeline utilities, volunteer groups. There are many, many parts of the machine that work together. That's the overview of the group structure and the national environment, and so I'll hand over to Vicky to talk about the plan development.
Thank you. Next slide, please, Dave. Okay, so not going through the whole bullet by bullet, but this is our strategic document. This is our opportunity to set a focus for the next 5 years. And there's just some overarching principles to the strategic document, as Mark's raised, about aligning with the National Disaster Resilience Strategy, and just noting that the strategic plan doesn't go down to operational level tasking. Okay, next slide. Okay, in the development of the plan, just here's some key dates that have been set out and what's happening under them. So I'll just, these slides are obviously available afterwards and in the fact of time, just highlight that we're in the process, and the top 4 rows in that is what currently is underway, and the only one that's got a deadline coming up is the community feedback. It's just an online survey, it's not engagement, but that's got a closing date of 31st of October. To date, we've received about 600, just over 600 responses to that. Okay, and then we'll go next slide. Thanks, Dave. Okay, so this is probably the key one for here. This is like the opportunities to improve the new group plan, because I think we need to start by acknowledging during events, whether pandemic, cyclones or others, that Māori had opened their marae, shared their resources and knowledge, and provided to meet the needs of people, not just Māori. And with the world around us keep changing, the next group strategic plan, it's an opportunity for iwi to influence the focus of emergency management across the Waikato to achieve outcomes that benefit Māori and the wider community for the next 5 years. I think that's probably, yeah. So before we can set a focus, we actually really need to understand what the challenges and aspirations of Māori and emergency management are. And knowing in that uncomfortable space, many of those challenges will be informed through lived experience of what didn't work well during events. And this is an opportunity to highlight those so that we can reach, because part of the group plan is, it will also need to advise what success looks like in 2030. So we need to understand the issues before objectives and a successful image can be reached. Next slide, Dave. Okay, so we've had some initial kōrero across the region, and these are just some short bullet points of challenges that have been advised to us. So again, these are available on the slide, so I won't go through them again, but a lot of them may ring things with you because there are some repeated commentary from discussions already had. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is just to inform a slight variation. This is the workings of where influence and inform will be. So traditionally the group strategic plan, or group plans, sorry, have been included actions. So we're separating those out. So we'll actually have a strategic plan that's fit for purpose across 5 years, and also having a separated out action plan that gives the ability for those actions to be reprioritised for emerging issues, change with legislation, from lessons learnt following emergencies. And those two need to have mechanisms for Māori to influence the priority steps each year. So the strategic plan will set that focus, and that action plan reviewed annually will give the ability for doing a reset for identifying areas that aren't working, so we're not stuck in a track of a 5-year process. And the taskings are how those members of the group individually do things. Next slide. So this isn't part of the group plan engagement, but I just want to socialise this at every opportunity that we've got. This is an operational framework that was developed during the COVID response, and it was gifted to the group to try help us guide us with a Te Ao Māori lens, so that when we activate under that coordinated incident management system, quite often called SIMS, the framework, which is used across agencies to guide an effective and coordinated emergency management for all the responding agencies. And just really to sum up, through the chair, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and any feedback is sought. We need to surface those challenges and opportunities, and obviously there's probably not time in this forum today, but we need to work out how, like you say, the right channels at the right time need to be undertaken. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Vicky. Councillor Mahuta, as the WRC appointee on CDEM, did you want to make some initial comments?
Yeah, just want to thank Vicky and Mark for the report and for the approach. I think two things that we as a council need to understand our tone of, especially when we have authority over things like civil defence. And I've said this at council, and I've said it in our committee meeting. A lot of the resources that the community wants to engage with aren't held by Māori as individuals. So saying Māori over everything doesn't fix it. Yeah, they're held by whānau, hapu and iwi. So that's a whole different conversation, and it's a nuance, but if we don't get it right, we won't be able to engage. So I put my hand up. I'm happy to be that engagement person for this committee to get people into a room. But the tone is that we are just like anybody else in the community. Well, we are until you need our 1,000 mattresses or us to cook 8,000 meals. You saw that for a whole week. Hey, none of that was paid for or mobilised, but it can happen. I don't know any other community that can do that, but we can. But it's not spoken to as strength. And that's what I probably need us to start speaking as a layer of strength to civil defence, not problems. Yes, we do have some of the most vulnerable communities in the district as well, but we want to work with that vulnerability in a strength-based way along with civil defence. I just note that to move this along, we're going to have one-on-one conversations with whānau, with iwi. We're going to have to talk to other providers as well that are Māori providers that are active in this space, just noting they're not on the list. Māori social service providers were at the forefront of COVID. They provided vaccinations to more community than primary health organisations, than general practices. So there's Māori and Māori. There's probably a whole number of groups. I have seen this before. This is straight out of the COVID experience, but I just think as a group, I've been on this council for 4 terms now. We haven't done anything meaningful about our relationships with iwi. Coming into this JMA today is a meaningful step, so thank you. But I think the next conversation has to be in person, in a room, asking in terms of Waikato, what were their challenges at the last civil defence emergency? What would be easier for them? And again, this is an iwi that has to work across not only Waikato's civil defence structure, but also Auckland's, because that is their area of interest. So the quicker, I guess, for Waikato that they're safe at home, then they can start dealing with the Auckland interests that they have as well. So just note that here. Again, happy to stand with and behind the team and the work going forward, but we have to move, otherwise the next emergency will arrive and we haven't had the first engagement. Thank you.
Sorry, Smith.
Thank you. I was heavily involved in CDEM as the Waikato district rep during COVID up until 2022 in the election. And without getting into too much negativity, a controller must, at the end of the day, make decisions. The reality for me is I'm not sure that what I'm seeing now and understanding now is that much learning has been taken, and I put it at the door of the controller because that's where ultimately the responsibility stands, and see them above that. The reality is the learnings from COVID absolutely need to be brought into play. The support and impact that iwi had through Marae and the likes was tremendous. I could use another word that I want to, but tremendous. So for me, the reality here is that we must engage in a way, or CDEM needs to engage in a way in which Maori wish to be engaged, not in which the organisation, CDEM or the controller, wants to engage. And maybe I should leave it at that. From what I'm hearing, if there is a lesson to be learned, engage in the way in which Maori wish to be engaged with, not in way a European. Yeah, I'm going to be just blunt. Yeah, do it the New Zealand way, not some archaic historical way. Thanks.
Jackie.
I just wonder if Mara, if you wanted to contribute to this kōrero.
Only to thank you for the report, and to just tautoko what Councillor Mahuta and Councillor Smith have said. There is a comprehensive tainui waka report that's been written about what the experiences in COVID, and a number of recommendations that the regional leadership group have worked through. Who is missing is civil defence in the conversations, and I'm confused about the because I've been talking to Mr. Julian Snowball, but see, I don't even understand how you guys, and no disrespect to you, Mark and Vicky, I don't know how that works with him. So there's even a disconnectedness in talking to who are we supposed to be talking to? Look, all of us want, you know, if it happens again, touch wood, it doesn't. But when it happens again, we just need to be all coordinated. We all know what our roles and responsibilities are. We have the right resources from a whānau, marae, hapu, iwi perspective to respond and look after our people. That's all we're trying to do. So really glad to hear that you guys are leading us in this space. And so what I've been doing is trying to agitate, because I could see nothing was happening, and I didn't even know that there was a whole lot of agitation happening somewhere else. So let's agitate together, I reckon.
Co-agitation. Nice. Nice.
If I could add, I'm just really supportive of everything that's been said, and I need to go in a sec, but I'll be online for the remainder. I think having recently had the report, the learnings from Cyclone Gabriel shared as an attachment with Risk and Assurance Committee, the idea first came up with this, but due to wanting to really tautoko what's been said, I'd really like that report and the one that Mara just mentioned to be shared with the councillors, and perhaps a bit of time to spend on the CDEM topic, just because I don't think we have spent that much time on that topic, and it is a significant responsibility of our council. I mean, it's not until you have an emergency that you sometimes spend time. I think a proactive one would be really good, just to make sure that we keep staying across it really well. And those are, well, the report I've seen was really good, and I think it'd be good for everyone to see it.
Just to assist Jennifer, I've asked for a report to come through ICM in relation to the learnings from the Hawke's Bay to come through, because it identified the likes of lower socio-economic communities weren't well defended, whereas the well-heeled were defended. And, you know, we will want to look at the learnings from that and make sure we're addressing those in the Waikato. So some of that will come through ICM.
All right. So what's our next step on this, Roger?
Just a comment.
thank you for your comments. We also had some fantastic comments from Te Wharetoa as well, and like all of that is going to go out. And having spoken to Vicky, and she might want to just say something quickly, but she's very passionate about making sure that this group plan that we are doing the next iteration of it is going to be a vast improvement of the past one, and it's going to set the direction so that when you get to those annual action plans, everything that we've been talked about starting to get worked out. I think Vicky is going to be meeting with iwi liaisons throughout the region. So this is a combined effort. They are there to support, and we'll be working with them because they have different relationships as well. So that sort of thing will be happening. But yeah, this is just really the process of engagement, and I think we would love to support getting down one-to-one with your operation staff or anyone else. But I'll just quickly hand over to Vicky if you have anything you wanted to add to that.
Oh, kia ora, Roger. It's Mark here. Can I just tōtoko the kōrero around the table, please, and acknowledge all the speakers. And I just want to say, look, we've got more bringing us together than we have got putting us apart. And look, that's our absolute desire, is to align and learn from the past and go forward positively and with iwi Māori in the Waikato. That's our mandate. Over to you, Vicky.
Oh no, thank you, Mark. I think that covered most of what I wanted to say. And part of this was recognising the uniqueness of iwi, and that's been brought home to us by Te Wharetoa, that things are done differently in different areas. And like you say, it's how Māori want to be engaged with through hapu level, through marae, so that's what we're trying to listen to. And we are really at that starting point of that. So any guidance would be gratefully appreciated, and happy to connect outside of this forum. Thank you.
Okay, could I just say that we haven't been through the front door of iwi. No use going through the side doors. So the committee said, so when I arrived at this committee, everybody wanted every iwi chair in the room so they could start an engagement. I did discuss how
You're talking about
difficult
at CDEM.
at CDEM,
At CDEM.
or someone mandated from iwi. We're still stuck at that point. You can go and talk to whoever you want, but if you haven't got their leadership in the room, we're not going to move the bar on this. So with Tairanga Whenua, if you let us help you, we can get them in a room to do this at a time and a space. But it's probably it requires a one-by-one conversation before you homogenise every iwi in this region, just out of respect. And sorry, this is 3 years ago. This is so last triennium that my hoha's coming through now, and I better just stop. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Vicky and Mark, and Tip as our voice on the CDEM committee. So like everyone, just tautoko all the kōrero that's been said. I think that as Mara alluded to, Vicky and Mark, we've got our learnings from some of the recent big events. It's just, you guys need to access that. And I really loved your kōrero, Tip, around how our role is framed, and it's not from a place of strength. Yeah. And I think that's something that CDEM could really learn from. If you think about that we are a strength to the region, and that's been shown time and time again, and think about how you frame yourselves around that, that might shift the dial in the whole conversation. Really supportive of the kōrero around having one-on-one kōrero with each iwi, with the leadership, and that's at operational level as well, because our teams are the ones who are in there doing the mahi when it hits the fan. So really supportive of the kōrero being at this hui. It does feel like 3 years ago, immediately after COVID, just hearing all of the, we're not in the conversation, we're not getting the resource. feels like this conversation should have happened a long time ago, but appreciate that it's happening now. And everyone's contribution. So hopefully there's some actions that, Dave, you've captured from that. I'm just going to bring it back to our strategic plan to the CDEM team, which includes a specific action around marae preparedness and working with CDEM. And our understanding is CDEM don't have that as a strategic priority, which is one of the reasons why it's not being resourced. We would encourage you to have a look at that priority as it sits within our work plan. We've identified it as a strategic priority from Waikato Tainoi's perspective. Alongside those bigger things that need to be addressed, there's some very specific and achievable things that you can help us with right now. So I'll pass that to Roger and Marley to share with you, because ensuring that our marae are prepared when another natural disaster or event occurs is a priority for us, and we would appreciate any support that you can provide us. Kia ora.
All right. Can I get a mover? Thank you, Councillor Mahuta. And I'll second to receive. Oh, sorry. Did somebody else just come in?
Donald.
Oh, was that
Yeah.
Donald? Oh, nice, Donald. Thank you. On the second, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. Last item. Hang in there, Donald. Hang in there, Councillor Mahuta. We got to keep a quorum here. All right. This is. Oh, nice. This is item 6.10, page 191. The JMA and CMLA implementation update. Molly.
Kia ora anō, really quickly, this is a standing item. We report on how well we are implementing our obligations under the two agreements. Pretty good news, I guess. Most of the obligations under both of the agreements are either complete, incorporated into BAU, on track, or yet to be triggered. Just as an example of yet to be triggered, there is an obligation in the JMA that requires us to involve Waikato Tainui if and when we receive an application for a private plan change. We've never received an application for a private plan change within the JMA area. There is one obligation in the JMA and the corresponding obligation in the co-managed lands agreement that we aren't delivering on, and that is the review. Of course, we are in the middle of completing that review process. In fact, we were going to wānanga with our governors this morning. We will reschedule that opportunity and at that point give greater insight into where we're at in the review process and what the next steps might be. I will leave it there. Kia ora.
All right.
So, Krisha Marley, how can we enable you to be able to finish that piece of work between now and then that does not contingent on trust our attendancing the same for the review? Is there anything else, or you need to pass it back through this committee, or the wānanga is a necessary step? I'm just trying to figure out how to give you more flex.
Yeah, well, thank you for the consideration. I think it's really important that we do wānanga with our governors because I guess any amendments to the JMA and our co-managed lands agreement is a significant next step. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that at the direction of our governors as opposed to presenting something that perhaps isn't going to land and we have to go back and do some further work. So it is an important component of the review process to get you in a wānanga situation. Yep.
Okay, so can we just note in the minutes that we're late on that one through a whole lot of reasons, but not resourcing or intention. Yeah. Okay,
that's right.
I guess as an action, if we can maybe do a doodle poll on rescheduling the wānanga before the end of the year. I wonder if it could be combined or coordinated with the final site visit. I don't know if that's a possibility, but Yep, and my apologies to the team for the late cancellation of the workshop.
It's why, thank you for the feedback. We'll do that.
All right, if there's nothing else, can I get a mover to accept the report or receive the report? Moved by Trustee Collier, seconded by Councillor Mahuta. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you, committee members. That brings us to the end of our agenda and the end of our meeting today. And yes.
Can I make some closing comments? I think that the fact that this hui has run over time is an indication of how much work is actually happening. And I do want to acknowledge the document that we received in hard copy at the door, and all of the progress that we've made in the last 12 months. It really does feel like we are building momentum and progressing forward. So I just want to mihi to all of the team, Regional Council, Waikato Tainui, the expertise that you contract in when you need to for all the progress that's been made, and the governors around the table as well. Kia ora.
Thank you for that, Jackie. I think that I really appreciate those sentiments and agree with the level of work and engagement that this committee has had this triennium. I think it's fantastic. And it's great to acknowledge it, because those who don't sit around this committee sometimes don't see that. And so it's nice that at least here in this room, we acknowledge it, because then hopefully we can share that with our broader team members so that they can see the value that can come out of these engagements and this relationship being really productive. And so thank you for that. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll pass to you, Roger, to close us.
Tēnā koe. Aotea tēnā tātou, kei te tautoko ngā mihi mo te nui o ngā mahi kua riwhia tātou. O te rā kia Dave hoki, e te taima ka ware te nui o ngā mahi ngiana. Reira tēnā koe. Kia noi. Kia tau kia tātou katoa te atawhai o tō tātou ariki. Peti me te aroha, te atu me te whengatahi tanga. Ake. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. We'll declare the meeting closed at 2:50 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to those online. Thanks for hanging in there. Kia ora.